All right, here we are with team number 2. So, surprise, surprise, it is Hannah renaming her team the British Invasion. How quaint. I can think of two, obviously, the Brits coming to fight America, and I guess the Beatles crossing over in the 60s on the musical invasion, so to speak. So I guess this is Hannah's invasion of the league, trying to take the crown for Great Britain. So, I like your draft. Let's get into it. 17. You had been waiting some time to draft somebody. You'd seen Derrick Henry go. Maybe not as patient as Brian in the last one, but Derrick Henry, Najee Harris, Dalvin Cook, most of the running backs, obviously Saquon, Kamara, Jonathan Taylor, Aaron Jones. So most of the elite guys are going. And I knew you weren't loving the prices, so you took the jump at 17 with Nick Chubb. I mean, Chubb is just terrific. He's probably going to get like 250 carries. He's probably going to get like 1,200 yards. He's probably going to score like 11, 12, 13 touchdowns. He'll have some passing game touches. But Cleveland has, as the same way the Chargers currently, I believe, going into this season, will hold one of the more elite offensive lines. Cleveland has maybe the best offensive line in football. Everyone on their O-line is elite, and they love to run the ball, and Chubb is the guy to do it with. I mean, you can't really argue with him when he's getting lots and lots of carries. It's really just a matter of volume versus backup Kareem Hunt, who led the NFL in rushing in his own right not too long ago. So, but Chubb is a beast. He's in the prime of his career. He's 25. He operates behind the best O-line in football. The only thing that stops him really is he just doesn't have much utility catching the ball. But he's a top 10 running back. So, do I love spending 71 on Nick Chubb? I can't say that I love it, but I like it, and I understood, you got to get an elite running back, and you waited maybe a little longer than I would have liked, and you spent a little more than I would have liked. But who's to say? Chubb's a great player. Chubb might be, for my money, Chubb might be the best back in football, even more so than Dalvin Cook and Aaron Jones and Christian McCaffrey and Derrick Henry. Chubb is an all-around workhorse who Henry can break off big runs. Cook has very good vision. McCaffrey's really good in the passing game. But Chubb every year leads the league in yards per rush, yards after contact, most broken tackles. Like, he consistently is excellent. It's just a matter of getting him more volume, honestly, that holds him back from being the best. But he's an elite player. I think, obviously, with his health record, he will stay healthy. So, I don't love 71 for him, but I agree that he is elite, and I think spending it to have him as the beginning of your foundation, I can appreciate. Next, we waited quite a bit. So again, Hannah doing the patience thing. Very strange, just like Brian. You took Chris Godwin at 35. I mentioned when he was going. So Godwin wasn't as good last year, obviously, as the year before. I attribute that a lot to him being injured, as well as the arrival of Antonio Brown, who roughly, I want to say now, 4 years ago, Antonio Brown was the best receiver in fantasy, best receiver in the NFL. 3 years ago, probably 2. So, yeah, Antonio Brown was a monster. Godwin is a very well-paid slot receiver, and he was a top 15 receiver last year. But he's just not, again, he's kind of limited by volume, not because he isn't good per se, but the two guys ahead of him, Mike Evans and Antonio Brown, are better. They're better receivers. I think he's the youngest, obviously, so I suppose he has the most potential as a 25-year-old. what I really like about this pick, I really like is that you got him for 17. I think he's a 1,000-yard receiver, probably gets 6, 7 touchdowns. He's just a good, solid. He would be a number 2 receiver typically. He's not elite by any stretch of the imagination, but I think he's around like top 20-ish receiver. Things break right, and I think he's a good receiver. But for the value, considering where other receivers were going and the prices on said receivers, I like that. I mean, I don't love him as my number 1, but for the price, I like it. And I think as we get into it later, you went more of a value mart feel than like, let's blow it all at once kind of thing. And it worked out really well. After that, you took James Robinson. Considering the injury to Travis Etienne, I figured you'd go heavy on a Jags player. Robinson was excellent last year on a very, very terrible Jaguars team that won 1 game. But they've brought in Carlos Hyde. It's a new coach, rookie quarterback. I think they'll run the ball with Robinson just to kind of give Lawrence a reprieve, so to speak. I don't know if they'll run the ball as much. I don't know if he'll hit 1,000 yards. So I think he won't be as good as he was last year. But last year he was excellent. I mean, so even if he's not as good, he was number 7? I want to say, like the 7th best running back in football. He's probably like, if Chubb is like, I don't know, I see Chubb as being like 6 or 7, and Robinson can be like 12, 13-ish, because he will get a lot of volume, just not as much. But with Etienne hurt, that really helps him out a lot. That'll get him over 200 carries probably. So he's probably looking at another, maybe not a 1,300-yard season, but a 1,200-yard season roughly. And getting that, considering the running back prices, getting that at 47, really good deal. Like, really, really, really good deal. That's your number 2 running back. I mean, at that price, he could be your number 1 running back. That's really good. So I really, really like that pick a lot. Just like Brian took Sanders at 45, you taking James Robinson for $47 is like, you guys both did really, like, you picked around the same place, you picked talented players, you picked them for around the same price level, so kind of a theme. You both get 2 really good running backs. Obviously, he spent more on some superstar receivers and you went a little budget, but you have greater depth because of it. So I can understand that, and that leads into the next pick, which is the opposite of Brian's with AJ. You took Julio. I mean, Julio, it's crazy to think he's spent 10 years in the NFL, and this will be year 11 and his first away from the Falcons. He had 6 consecutive top 7 finishes as a fantasy wide receiver until last year. Of course, I had him on my team last year, and he was hurt for roughly half the year. So, but when he's healthy, he was still a dominant receiver. Like, people don't understand, even as he was healthy, even as he was hurt last year, why I kept him. When he was healthy last year, he was the number 3 receiver in fantasy. He was elite. It was not close. He did not help me towards the end of the season, but in those mid-weeks when he's getting 8, 9 catches, he's breaking 100, 120, 130 yards, he's getting multiple touchdowns. Yeah, no, he was the number 3 fantasy receiver when healthy last year. Go look it up. So half the season I only got him, so that's what sucks. So again, injury risk, just like Brian. Last year, he only got, 10 games? He got 50 catches. You want him healthy. He's not as in a pass-happy offense, so the efficiency will be up. The routes will be down. The targets will be down. The hope is Tannehill pounces on that efficiency with him. Personally, if you're asking me what I believe with Antonio, I don't know if he's going to have an elite season, but I think he'll have a solid season. Honestly, I think he's right around what Godwin's going to get, just because, like, in the low passing but high efficiency Tennessee Titans offense, he'll probably get more looks in the red zone than he was getting in Atlanta. And I think that kind of balances out the yards. So if I had to say, him and Godwin are around the same place, which is around like 1,000 yards and like 7 touchdowns. And again, paying $13 for Julio Jones. I mean, that guy's probably going to the Hall of Fame. He's just got to stay healthy. So, and then again, another $13 player. You just kept getting these like value receivers, very good value receivers. So you took DJ Moore, who breakout receiver 2 years ago. Last year was a little bit more different. He had a more deep routes, but higher catch rate. But he also was second in drops. I think he had 8 drops. So second in drops and pretty good target share in Carolina with 25. DJ Moore, very quick receiver. I'm going to go through it again. I think, honestly, for my money, considering where Godwin and Julio are, I think DJ Moore is quietly the one with the most upside. And the reason being is because we really don't know anything about Sam Darnold. I think Sam Darnold, honestly, is bad, if I'm being, like, legit with you. I think Sam Darnold's not a good quarterback. I think he's a bad quarterback. But that being said, even if Darnold is bad, everything around Carolina with Joe Brady makes it so that they are going to pass a lot. If we go back and remember, Joe Brady was the offensive coordinator for Joe Burrow at LSU his senior year. So they're going to pass. Like, it's not any question in my mind. So even if it's inefficient, DJ Moore will get a lot of targets. Will he catch all of those targets from Sam Darnold? I have a hard time believing that, but they will be in shootouts. So, honestly, I think he could have a 1,200-yard season, which is more than what I would say for Godwin and Julio. I think he'll have less touchdowns, so maybe like 4 or 5. But I think you're looking at another number 2 receiver, very, very good, but more so than Godwin or Julio, with the potential to be a number 1 if Darnold does turn out to be at least average. I wouldn't bet on that, but I think he is a number 2 receiver just based off the fact that with Curtis Samuel gone, the offensive line better, and whether I think Darnold is better than Teddy or not, some consistency would be nice. So they will feed DJ. Other than McCaffrey, he's the best player on that offense. And really, that's what we want. We want targets. We want lots and lots of targets. I don't know if we'll get lots and lots of receptions, but, targets are good too, because he'll get his hands on the ball, and he has a chance to break away. So this was probably my favorite pick of yours, Hannah. I really like DJ Moore a lot. I watched him a lot, because obviously, we live in Florida, so we see the Panthers quite a bit. So I really like that pick. That's a great steal at 13. Then we're getting, I guess, into the not so much I like. So we splurged. We splurged on Trey Sermon for $17. So like I say every year, I love my rookie running backs, but I do a lot of research on my rookie running backs. So I think Sermon was one of my favorite. He might have been my second favorite running back coming out of the draft behind Javonte Williams. And I remember Kyle Shanahan propping up Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman in 2006. But I also know since then in San Francisco running the show, he's all committee. He's a committee guy. So I was surprised to see you spend $17 on Trey Sermon, because you're going to have to sit on Trey Sermon. He is going to be the backup. Raheem Mostert is there. This is a committee. It's not going to be Sermon getting the ball 25 times a game, despite the fact that, we spent a number 3 overall pick on Trey Lance, and we're starting Jimmy G and Raheem Mostert. If it was me, I'd be starting Trey Lance and Trey Sermon, but I digress. So, Sermon has the most talent. He's explosive. He's really elusive. He forces a lot of missed tackles. He may not have breakaway speed, but he's a pretty good pass catcher. So he reminds me, who would I say? I guess you would say, this goes back, he reminds me a lot of Jerome Bettis. But also, if we want to go back to someone who was big and kind of burly but caught the ball quite a bit, I mean, he's 6 foot, so maybe maybe like Sean Alexander-esque, very nimble on his feet. I will say he's more of a stash because, again, you're going to probably want to keep him on the bench and hope that either A, Mostert gets hurt, or B, Sermon just shows too much and takes over for him, which I think will happen. But as I tell people with the rookies, unless they're installing the rookie as a starter, like Najee Harris, you got to be patient with them. He's going to have to sit on your bench for half the year. Now, the back half of the season is where they make their money. That's what I told Brian with Miles Sanders his rookie year. That's where the rookies come into play. You got to wait till the back half. So if you can be patient with them, if you can say, okay, I'm punting for half the season, that's because that is what you're doing with him. Betting on the back half that he will show his talent and shine. If you can eat that roster spot, it's worth it. I really like Trey Sermon a lot. He's my second favorite rookie in this draft. Again, I had him higher than Travis Etienne, higher than Najee Harris, higher than Michael Carter, higher than Kenneth Gainwell. I mean, I could go through all the names of the rookies, but really high on him. Really talented player. He's in a really good scheme with a really good head coach, with a not great starter and a not great starting quarterback. You give him a few weeks, you give him those carries, he will pop. It's just a matter of when. So if you can be patient, if you don't fall behind a few weeks and lose a few weeks without him, but if you get ahead and win, I don't know, let's say you're 4-2 after 6 weeks and you've been sitting on Sermon, you will be sitting pretty. And that is what I'm betting on. So I like the pick. I think you spent a lot, though, on him, but I don't know if that aggression was because you knew anything about him, or if you went into it because you researched him, or you're just like, I want this guy because I know him. Maybe you watched him at Ohio State. I'm not sure. You'd have to tell me, but it's funny you picked Sermon. I had my eye on him, but man, you were real aggressive going after him. That was probably the most aggressive play you had in the draft because you paid as much for him as you paid more for him than DJ Moore, Julio, and Chris Godwin. That was your third highest paid player. That's a lot. After that, obviously, we have the myth, Michael Thomas. Number 1 receiver 2 years ago. MIA for Ryan last year. Do I love it for $5? Yes, I do. Will he be the number 1 receiver? Probably not. Drew Brees is gone. But, I mean, his 2019, he was incredible. He had 149 receptions, like 1,700 yards, 9 touchdowns on like 185 targets. Like, just stupid. Just a stupid season. Like, one reception shy of 150. That's bananas. So, you're hoping for that guy. They're in a dispute right now. When will he come back? Again, you're sitting on him half the season. You're hoping he comes back half, and he has some chemistry with whoever the quarterback is. I suppose it might be Winston. He plays bad as hell, and that he gets along well with everybody and everything's kosher. But Thomas is elite. Thomas runs great routes. He's a technician. He's quietly quick. He's got tremendous acceleration. His ability to create space to catch the ball is the best in the NFL. All right, the best route runner in the NFL is probably Keenan Allen. Number 2 is probably Stephon Diggs. What Thomas does between the two of them is he's not as good a route runner, but he has better acceleration than either of them. So his ability to just like turn on a dime and like drop his hips and then create separation, especially on dig routes or like comebacks, is the best. If he can do that kind of explosion when he comes back, you have a number 1 receiver, which, quite frankly, is kind of scary considering the riches you already have on the team with Chris Godwin and Julio and DJ Moore. So essentially, you bought like 3 number 2 receivers, and you're kind of quietly waiting for the number 1 receiver to return. Which, again, with Sermon, who possibly could be popping by the end of the season, really it's kind of like a dual pick because you're spending like $23 on Sermon and Thomas, and you only want one of the two to pop. And there's a good possibility of that. I really, really like that. I like the idea. You got a rookie, you got a big-time receiver. The other guys are all very good, but they can make or break your season. So, yeah, no, that's a steal. $5 Michael Thomas, that's a steal. It's a steal. NFL record receptions 2 years ago. $5. It's a steal. So, yeah, you just got to be patient. I don't know if you're going to be able to do that. But, man, you could really, that back half of the season, it's going to be real hard to beat you. What I didn't like, just like Brian, I feel like some of you guys went a little too, like, I'm going to go away from quarterbacks. This one is the opposite of Brian. Brian took the safe quarterback in Ryan Tannehill, who I think will be a top 10 quarterback. Hannah went super duper upside, spent $1 on Tua, $1 on Joe Burrow, and we're hoping one of them pops. Do I love it? I mean, I think they both showed potential last year. There are a litany of reasons why I'm not sure that's going to work. That's why I said in the draft, if you can figure out quarterback, you have a championship level team. I wish, later on you spent like $5 on A.J. Dillon. It's kind of crazy to me. I know you guys, it's almost like the pendulum has swung too far. Just like Jalen Hurts went for $3 and Kyler Murray went for $5, I would not mind spending $5 on Kyler Murray if it means I get to start Kyler Murray instead of Tua. That's not great, but that's a good gamble. It's not all about, I got to get the dollar quarterback. It's about taking a player that I believe in, who I think has high potential to do something for me that he's never shown before. Kyler Murray has the potential to be an MVP. Jalen Hurts has the potential to be a top 5 rushing quarterback. Maybe the best rushing quarterback this side of Lamar Jackson. Instead, we're taking Joe Burrow, who's behind a bad O-line and has receivers who can't catch the ball, and Tua Tagovailoa, who has really good receivers but has no running back and a decent O-line. So I'm not really sure. If I'm gonna pick one of the two, I suppose it's Burrow has a better chance of being a top 10 quarterback. But even then, I think they're going to run the ball a lot with Mixon to protect him. So, I don't love what we're doing at quarterback just because, again, if I felt that Brian was taking the safer pick, I felt you're taking the super duper high upside play, but you're doing it at such a place where you don't have any real fallback. There's no safety. So, we went so far upside, there's no safety at all, whereas Brian is very safe, but there's very little upside. So, either way, I really would have appreciated some balance. That's really what I was looking for. The balance was not great, especially considering some of the prices on quarterbacks. You don't have to pay 16 from Mahomes, 9 for Lamar, 11 for Josh Allen that I paid. I still don't feel great about that. But as I mentioned, there were some deals. I mean, come on, Andre took Matthew Stafford for $3. Do we think Joe Burrow is going to have a better season than Matthew Stafford? I got a hard time believing that, especially considering the coaches. So, yeah, I think that's one thing I really don't like. And then I guess we can get into it. Some of the depth is a kind of A.J. Dillon, I like. He's the number 2 running back. Obviously, LaFleur believes in him, even if I don't believe in LaFleur. But he'll get some play with Jamal Williams gone behind Aaron Jones. DJ Chark, I think, is honestly the number 2 receiver this year behind someone. We will not mention them in this video. We will mention them in a later video. But I was surprised he went a little bit on another Jags receiver to be the backup when you have James Robinson. I like Latavius Murray as the backup to Alvin Kamara. Maybe you can move him to whoever owns Kamara for something. Khalil Herbert has looked good at Bears camp, so he's a solid number 3 running back for the Bears. What I'm surprised, actually, what I'd say more than anything else is I'm surprised, like, free agency has been open for a couple days. Today's Thursday night. Free agency has been open since, like, Tuesday. And Hannah has not picked up anyone after putting Michael Thomas on IR. I'm surprised because there were some decent running backs that were available that got immediately taken up that she could have just stashed on her bench. Or, like, maybe even a good receiver, too. Like, Nelson Aguilar is the #1 receiver for Mac Jones with the Patriots, and he was on free agency. I mean, maybe you don't need another receiver, I don't know, but for me, a team without receivers, that would have been nice. So, yeah, I'm surprised Hannah hasn't picked up anyone off free agency. I think her depth is reasonably good. Chark, A.J. Dillon, Murray, Herbert. It's not bad. It's not great, but, we can turn that over. If nothing comes of it, Dillon and Chark will have value. I'm surprised we're going backup quarterback. I'm definitely surprised we're keeping, like, Tua. Like, I would much, how can I put this? Just like Robbie believes, like, oh, Trevor Lawrence might pop and be a good quarterback. Why in the world would I spend a bench slot hoping that a quarterback's going to pop when I can just pick him up off free agency? Justin Herbert was a free agent last year. Like, I cannot stress this enough. Just find a good quarterback. Stick with a good quarterback. You don't have to spend a lot of money on quarterback. You can spend $1 on the quarterback, but there were some discount deals to find with quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts for $3 is a good deal. Matthew Stafford for $3 is a good deal. Aaron Rodgers for like $4 is a pretty good deal. Kyler Murray for $5 is a good deal. Like, you don't have to spend an oodle amount of money on a quarterback. But, getting a good starter is important. Getting someone with high upside is important. I would have liked to have seen that rather than just, like, hoping, because that's what I feel like Tua and Joe Burrow, hoping that someone really hits that big time, and I got a very difficult time believing either of these guys are going to do it. So, yeah, you're quarterback away, but if you can find him, hey man, you'll probably be a top 2 team, maybe meet Brian in the finals. It's a really good team, Hannah. I will give you an A- because I really like the depth. I really like what you've done. I really like the way you worked the draft. You had mentioned at the end of the draft last year with trades, you were too aggressive. I would adamantly disagree with that. I think aggression is good, but I think what you learned in the draft is it's important to be patient with your aggression. It's important to wait for the moment to strike. And I think you did a very good job of that. You hit haymakers. Your first 6 picks were all haymakers. So, yeah, very well done. I give you an A-. I think you have a great team. You're my #2 team. So, hats off to you.